95% of the people who start learning to code quit within their first year. And you know what? It is not because they are not smart enough. It is also not because coding is impossible to learn. I mean, there are a million software developers in this world right now, more than that, if I'm being honest. It is because they keep on making the same mistake over and over again. So today I'm gonna give you my no BS advice, my top coding tips for beginners. These are things that I wish somebody had told me when I was starting out, and if you stick around till the end, I'll promise you'll avoid the biggest traps that make people quit. Hey guys, I'm Anudeep and I work as a software engineer. Yes, I am a self-taught developer, and today I'm sharing my top tips for beginner coders. So if you're somebody who's starting out their coding journey, or even if you're somebody who's in a college studying computer science, I hope you find value in this video. I'm gonna break this video down into two main sections. The first one deals about how to study effectively to become better at coding, and the second one discusses some mindset shifts which will make your coding journey better. Let's get started. Alright, so first up, let's talk about how to actually learn to code, because most people get this completely wrong. Number one, escape the tutorial hell. So, you've decided that you want to learn coding, right? And what is the first thing that you do? Maybe you open up YouTube, go find some courses, maybe buy some books, or even sign up for some online class or bootcamp. But here's the thing, and I have been guilty of this too. You fall into what we call tutorial hell. You're always following tutorials, always listening to classes, always reading books, and always learning, but never building. You know what I mean? You feel like you're making all this progress because you're consuming all this content in the end, but when somebody asks you to build something from scratch, you are stuck. And this is a cliche problem every beginner developer faces when they're learning to code. This is so because you don't understand that actual learning happens when you stop following instructions and start building off stuff on your own. You start building stuff, you get stuck, you read documentation, or even ask an LLM. I use Claude, you can use ChatGPT or whatever, and you solve your own stuff. And even still, you can't figure out what is wrong with your code and why you can't fix that bug. And you do more research, you try out random solutions, and something works, and you figure out why something is working and that other thing is not working. And all of this process is what is called learning. And this brings me to my next point. Look, everybody tells you practice coding, practice makes a man perfect. But what is that supposed to look like? Most people think it is doing more coding tutorials or some coding exercises and stuff. But here is what actually happens. When you finish a class or a tutorial or a playlist on YouTube, you feel confident. And then you go on and try out a new project and you try to build it from scratch, and you can't replicate what you just learned because you are just following step-by-step instructions and not actually learning. What you need to do is build actual products by hand. Start building projects where you don't have a YouTube video guiding you through every step of the way. And you won't believe this. This is even how a senior software engineer learns. They read the documentation and then they just dive right in. They start building something. It is called break it and fix it. You take a random GitHub repository, you break it, you fix it. That's when actual learning happens. Alright, let's talk about something controversial. That's DSA, or data structures and algorithms. I know, everybody says that, hey, you don't need to do DSA if you don't want to go to big tech. But the reality is, even if you understand the basics of algorithms, the type of questions every company asks, apart from OOPS concepts and basic programming concepts, are a bit tricky. And quite frankly, no matter how intelligent you are, they are not very intuitive. You just cannot wing it in an interview. So start practicing DSA even before your first interview, like way before, because these questions require practice and you need to get comfortable with these thinking patterns and coming up with patterns after you look at a problem and stuff like that. Trust me on this. I've made an entire separate video going into details of why DSA is important, so you can go check that out. Now, this might sound contradictory about what I just said about DSA, but when you are learning, you need to change your mindset about code quality. I've seen a bunch of beginners know about the importance of DSA and then focus on optimizing their code the first thing when they're starting out. They want the perfect time complexity, the space complexity, and the cleanest of codes that they have ever seen. And you know what happens to those people? They get stuck because they're trying to optimize something that they don't even understand. They get frustrated. So Focus on writing code that just works. Effective code is better than optimized code when you're just starting out and when you're just learning to code. Your goal right now is to learn the technology or the programming language or the framework that you are learning, not to write the most perfect version of it. Make it work first, optimize later. Okay, so now that we know how to practice effectively, here are some of the mindset shifts that you can inculcate in order to make your coding journey better and more fruitful, and make sure that you stick with it. Because trust me, this is where everybody fails. Let's be real for a second. You've already seen those YouTube videos where coding looks easy and fun and cool and stuff, right? Learn to code in 30 days and how coding changed my life and stuff like that. But here is what they don't tell you. Those YouTubers are software engineers who have already put in the hours and the hard work to learn the difficult stuff and practice coding. As I mentioned, for them it's easy because they have already done the hard work. And look, I'm not saying that they are wrong in presenting it the way they do. In the end, it encourages people to join this beautiful field. But you guys do need to know the truth. And that is, coding is hard. It is tough. You have to think very slowly sometimes. You'll get stuck, you'll break stuff, and then you'll spend so many hours just fixing a small bug. There will be times where you feel discouraged and lonely, but acknowledging all of this upfront actually helps you, because then all of this will not catch you by surprise. So, now that you know coding is difficult, here is the most important thing I can tell you. Things will get tough. Trust me on this. If you want to be something worthwhile in this industry, or for that matter any industry in this world, you will hit walls. You'll feel like you want to quit. You'll feel like that this is not for you and you're not cut out for this, and all these imposter syndrome thoughts will flood your brain. But I also want to tell you that the ones who make it to the top in this industry are the ones who do not give up in these situations. Look, I don't know what your way is. Maybe it is motivation, maybe it is a mantra, maybe it is some other goal setting exercise. Find your way and do not give up. That is the absolute bottom line of all of this. Because, as they say, the only way out is through. And this brings me to my final point. Something a lot of people miss, but it is super important. The tech industry is huge. It is so broad and it can be applied to virtually any field nowadays. There are literally so many things you can do, so many interesting paths you can go on. But here is what happens. You start learning something, it gets hard as we just talked about, and then you see something else that looks interesting. So you switch. Then that thing gets hard and then you switch again. You end up switching between different things and mastering nothing. So set a clear goal. Know your why, as they say in a fancy language. Maybe you want to work in big tech. Maybe you want to build your own website. Or maybe you're just exploring coding on your own. Or maybe you even want to do freelancing, or you want to build your own startup and stuff. Whatever it is, just know it. Because when things get tough, and they will, trust me on this, having a clear goal keeps you focused. Because the matter of the fact is, if you only do easy and interesting things, you will never be able to solve real-world problems. And solving real-world problems is the name of the game. This is what we are here for. To get to the top 1%, 0.1%, to get to the very top cream level, you have to go through the hard miles. Once you're learning something and you get stuck, you need to get unstuck by learning it more. You just have to break through that. So, there you have it. My no BS advice for anyone starting to code. Break it, fix it, and never quit. That's how you become the top 1%. Look, I know this might not be what you wanted to hear. Maybe you came into this video to, learn some magic formula and, learn some shortcuts to get to where you want to get. But in life, there are no shortcuts. There is just a right way to practice and the right mindset to be in. And I've shared both with you. Alright, so if you found value in this video, please hit like and subscribe. As always, it means a lot. And please let me know down in the comments below which of the points absolutely hit home for you. I always read your comments and like to know your stories. Happy coding, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.